Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Clio Cloud Conference. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're having a wonderful time here and that you were able to catch Neil Kakel's amazing keynote this morning. So I'm Teresa Matic. I am a content strategy manager here at Clio. I've been with Clio for about 6 years, and over that time, I've had the pleasure of interviewing many of our amazing customers, and I'm so honored to host these 3 Reisman winners here today. So we'll start with a quick introduction of our panelists, and we're gonna watch a little bit of their stories. Then we'll have a panel discussion, and then we'll dive into some audience Q&A. So today with me, we have Mary Chartier of Chartier and Nyamvukutsa PC, and they are the winner of our Legal Impact Reisman Award this year. We have Karine Sakpo of 402 Legal, and they're the winner of our Diversity and Inclusion Reisman Award this year. And finally, we have James Creedon of Creedon PLLC, and they are the winner of our Community Champion Reisman Award this year. Congratulations, everyone. All of these lawyers have done incredibly inspiring work in our communities, and they are great examples of what we can do to transform the legal experience for all. So let's watch a little bit more of their stories.
I believe that every law firm has a fundamental duty to make the world better. To understand our firm, I think you have to understand my personal history. I started off as a high school dropout who was a drummer in a punk band, who traveled across country on freight trains, who became an environmental activist, then became a New York City paramedic who survived 9/11, went to law school, joined the Army and served as an Army officer. All of those things came together for me to have a desire to serve my community as a lawyer. I'm James Creedon, the founder of Creedon PLLC. We're headquartered in Frisco, Texas, and we have been a Clio customer since 2017. We mix intellectual property with business law to help businesses get started, to grow and scale, and to have litigation when necessary. We make commitment to our community, ethical legal practice, and commitment to larger environmental issues on a planetary scale, all integrated into the core of who we are as a firm. Our firm's One Future initiative is a core part of who we are, and in it we make a commitment of 5% of our gross revenue to good works and 5% of our time to pro bono and service projects. We love to get out into the community and meet real people and see real experiences and real struggles, and finding ways to concretely affect their lives both legally and economically. We also have a tree planting initiative. We've planted over 32,000 trees, and we're going to hit 50,000 this year. We're incredibly proud that this year we became the first B Corp certified law firm in Texas. And what it is an objective, independent, audited way to show that what you're saying you do, you actually do. If we're just thinking about our local community and not thinking bigger, we're helping our neighbors, but we're not helping our planet in the long term for the future. If we just think globally, then we may feel good about the work we're doing across the planet, but the person across the street is still suffering. We can do both, and every law firm can do both. It's our responsibility to do so.
I believe we are all capable of greatness. We are all capable of doing unimaginable things. However, we don't all have the access. So it behooves us to create access for others, to create a path for others, even when they themselves can't see it. I'm Karine Sakpo, and I'm the managing attorney for 402 Legal here in Omaha, Nebraska. I became a Clio customer in 2011. The clients that we serve as a profession, they are non-monolithic. They are very diverse, and having lawyers that share life experiences with them make a difference. I'm from Togo in West Africa. I moved to the United States when I was 20 years old. And as an immigrant, when you move to a different country, you lose all your social capital. So I had to rebuild all of that here, and I feel like I can help somebody else that's in that same situation. Being able to have somebody that looks like you, that's a little bit ahead of where you are, that can teach you some of the ropes is invaluable. I'm the product of somebody else throwing the rope to me and helping me figure out how to go to law school. I couldn't afford it, so I want to provide that for others as well. My firm has been really involved in the African community here, helping with access to legal resources, helping with education, and we created this pitch competition, Pitch Black, to provide opportunity and access to funding to diverse entrepreneurs. Those are all things that are very important because I believe in giving back. I believe in paving the way for others. Until somebody shows you what is possible, you can want it all you want, but if you don't see a path forward, it's not attainable. You cannot dream of what you haven't seen.
The criminal justice system in the United States absolutely has to be reformed. We see the inequities in the system, and we see what happens when people don't have real advocates stand up for them, and I wanted to be the one to stand with that person and hold the government accountable every day. My name is Mary Chartier of Chartier and Nyamfukuza. Our law firm is a criminal defense litigation firm. We're located in Michigan, and we became Clio customers in 2017. So the Constitution is what we work to defend every day, and we do it through defending individuals. We are there to be their voice in the courtroom. We are there to hold the government accountable. We are there to make sure their constitutional rights are not violated, frequently when everybody has turned against them. Our firm has exonerated numerous people who were wrongfully imprisoned, and without this team, there would be people remaining in prison who never committed the crime and should be free. For us to take a case on pro bono, we really have to believe that the client is innocent. We have to balance that with the fact that people here don't get paid in hugs. So we need to have money coming in the door. The retained work allows us to do the pro bono exonerations, and that's how we balance it as a law firm. When that client comes to us, they've exhausted all of their other resources. And for most people, they've been saying for years and years that they're innocent, but no one has either listened or no one has had the resources to help them. It is incredibly difficult to convince the government that they got it wrong 20, 25, 26 years later. It is an all hands on deck, years-long labor of love. And so to do that, you have to be fully committed, and Clio has helped us do that. While it's an amazing feeling to exonerate someone, it is also a really depressing feeling because you realize that this is a life that has been forever altered because people didn't do their job and people were willing to cut corners to prosecute and put someone in prison who was actually innocent. And so we couldn't sleep at night knowing that we weren't at least trying to help as many people as we could.
Wow, that was super inspiring. That was amazing. Can we get another round of applause for an amazing, so incredible. So my first question for all of you is, Mary, you spoke to this a little bit, but how does it feel when those efforts come together to make an impact on your community?
I mean, it feels amazing. I don't know. This is the team right up front here. Yeah, that's right. Who, my amazing business partner, Kurt, Tony, Nicole, Marissa, Lizzie, and Kim, who were involved on every single facet of this and gracious enough to let me be the firm representative for this. And you can see Lizzie is tearing up because when we got the call for at least one of the gentlemen in there and found out that he was going to be released, we had worked on that case for 6 years pro bono. And Tukur had been in the Army for 12 years, and he said that he remembered how great it was to get handwritten letters. So at least once a week, he would handwrite a letter to the client in prison rather than doing the email system that we frequently do. And they established a real relationship. When the client would come in, he would always speak with Tony. So they have these real amazing relationships. When we found out that the effort was going to pay off, I was actually driving to a court hearing. I had to pull over on the highway because I was tearing up. I'd called Takura, Nicole, because you can't just call a person and be like, hi, can I speak to Mr. Hamilton? So Nicole used her like unbelievable persuasive skills to get the warden's assistant to allow us to do that. Once I was done with court, when I went to federal court, I was then running late because I had been crying on the side of the road. I ended up hitting a pole because I was trying to hurry up. And so then we called the client, let him know that after 26 years and him being turned down at every facet, he was going to be released. I mean, he cried. It was amazing. Roughly 48 hours, he was released. We were all there. But because it was COVID, we couldn't all go out to eat and everything. So Takura took him out. It was incredible. I mean, it's just this unbelievable feeling. I mean, I could tear up about it right now, but it's also amazingly sad. And so when I went home, it wasn't just the wine, but I wound up crying that night, because for 26 years, he had been telling people he didn't commit this murder. Pretty much his entire family had turned against him or moved on, most friends. He could have 2 people greet him when he was released, again, because of COVID, and the 2 people he selected were me and Takura. If that tells you anything about not having that family and friend support network. And so it's really sad and it's unbelievably frustrating because people say, and I had a prosecutor tell me this on a different case when he heard about it, well, justice was done. It really wasn't. This man spent 26 years. He went in at the age of 19 and came out in his 40s. So justice really wasn't done because he never should have been convicted in the first place. And people think that stories like this are anomalies, and they're not. I mean, we could spend hours going over cases, not just that we've handled, but other people have handled. We really know what leads to wrongful convictions. We just, as a society, refuse to do anything about it. So it's really a mixed bag of emotions.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful. And Kareen, what about you with the competition that you founded and everything? How does that feel?
You can found something, right? You can found an organization and it will look all great on paper and you can work so tirelessly to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. But it all boils down to the moment where it makes an impact on an individual, on a person. And I'll always remember the first Pitch Black, and it was a ton of work. And when it was done, the winner was winning $10,000 towards his business, and he wanted to have a catering company. And as he spoke, it just hit me when he described arriving to the U.S. with his pregnant wife, right? And driving a cab and sleeping in the cab at school just to be able to catch a few hours of sleep in order to make it to class, because he's been working around the clock in order to try to make ends meet. That's when it really hits you that what you're doing is making a difference. And it's an incredible feeling.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing, Kareen. And James, what about you? What does it feel like when your efforts come together?
Well, of course, first I echo what both of you said, and I just want to acknowledge how grateful I am to be on the stage with both of you. I mean, it's really inspiring for me sitting here watching your videos and learning more about you during this conference. We do pro bono legal work, but some of the work that I love the most is our service projects. And that's where we get out of the office, we get hands-on work out in the community. And one of my favorite projects is the Children's Advocacy Center. It's a center for children who have faced abuse or neglect, and to get out and be able to work hands-on on a project in the community and to see the fruits of those efforts come out later on in service to these children is really inspiring for me. I think a big part of building a firm based on service is doing legal work and also just doing that hands-on work, because at least at my firm, there's a danger of us getting trapped behind the computer. The natural kind of work that we do is business and transactional work. So getting out and doing service work is some of the most fulfilling.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it shows it can go, you can do pro bono work, or you can also do, something else that might work better for you. But having an impact is what's most important. And James, I also wanted to ask, in your video, you talked about how law firms have a responsibility towards this, to having a community impact and making a better future, both locally and globally. And I wanted to ask why you believe that. And Corinne and Mary, I'm going to ask you your thoughts on this too, so be prepared. But James, you first.
So a lot of times people ask, why is our firm different? And I say, we're not different. We're just authentic. We're authentic about the things we care about. And I think that all lawyers want to make the world a better place. We all want to do it in different ways, but every single lawyer I've met, if you really push them, there's something they want to do to make the world better. And so the question isn't, should you do it? I think we all inherently want to. The question is, how do you do it? How do you find the mechanisms to get out and change the future? For us, we're very much a data-driven firm. And I'm very optimistic in the big picture about people. People want to make the world better. And I'm also a realist when it comes to day in, day out. Lawyers have to bill our time and build our firms. And so that's why when we launched our One Future initiative, we built a dashboard, which now is a public dashboard. You can go to our site and you can see to the penny where we've donated money. You can see to the hour what service projects we've done. You can click through and see the spreadsheets that underlie all of that. And we do that as a way of motivating us. It's great to see we're going to plant 50,000 trees this year, and it's great to see us getting towards that goal. And it's also great to demonstrate to other lawyers, look, do the work, show that you're doing the work, find ways to track it and to share your successes, and then that's going to inspire other attorneys to do the same. So our dashboard isn't a look at us, it's look at what you can do with a little bit of effort every single month.
Very cool. And Corinne, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with James 100%. And I'll add to what you just said, that as lawyers, it's important to find what you really care about, right? In order for you to feel fulfilled in trying to make a difference, it needs to be something you really care about authentically. And for my firm and for me, it was helping diverse entrepreneurs and helping with access to justice with the Volunteer Lawyer Project. And while the Volunteer Lawyer Project is more of the traditional lawyer avenue for doing pro bono work or helping others have access to justice, for entrepreneurship, for me, what it was recognizing that it was such a great path to building legacy for immigrants and underserved individuals. And they already have a strong drive for entrepreneurship anyway. So how do we help foster that drive? How do we help catalyze that and help them be successful? And that wasn't a traditional legal avenue for that, but it was something I deeply cared about.
Yeah, so more about making, a path for others. And Mary, what about you?
Well, we have a really unique seat to inequity every day in court. And so to just accept that as reality and that there's nothing that we can do about it just doesn't sit right, I think, with any of us. I think that, this entire team, you couldn't really rest knowing that we're just going to, keep putting one foot in front of the other and not at least trying to make the system better, whether it's on a global scale or whether it's one person at a time. And so that's what really drives us. To rock the boat is not enough. You really have to kind of blast that boat wide open and swim to shore and build an entire new one for the criminal prosecution system. That, quite frankly, is probably way out of my skill set. We try to advocate for really wholesale changes, but no one takes criminal defense attorneys that seriously. Although I know Takura sits on a lot of really high profile committees, but frequently he's the only defense voice. So recognizing the wall that we keep banging our head up against that, the hope is that when people see exonerations, Michigan had over 20 exonerations in 1 year from one county. So think about that, right? Wayne County, Michigan, which is where Detroit is based, they have a conviction integrity unit. And in 1 year, their amazing director, Val Newman, exonerated over 20 people. And there are so many other people. And the hope is that when people see that, it's not a movie, it's a real life, that will inspire change.
Wow, that's really inspiring. There's some hope there for sure, but a long way to go.
Yes.
So, Corinne, my question for you're talking about the importance of someone being slightly ahead of you to show you the rope and how that helped you and how that's kind of what drives a lot of what you do. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's the old story about mentorship, right? Having the right mentors, having them show you the rope, having them tell you, well, how to go from point A to point Z. In your mind, you already know you want to get to point Z, but you need that roadmap sometimes. And it's always great to have somebody that could do that. Now, depending on the circumstances of your birth, you may already have those mentors built in. It is your parents, it's your uncles, your parents' friends, your community that you already have. If your parents and you yourself have lived in one community for decades and decades and hundreds of years, but when you are coming to a different country, or you are from a community of underserved individuals where you don't necessarily have anybody that has finished high school. You don't have anybody that ever went to college. You don't have anybody that has ever owned a business, a law firm, or even dreamt of becoming a lawyer. You are not starting at ground zero. You're starting deeper down. And so you need those individuals that have also done it or not, but just want to help you get to where you want to be. And so it is important for me, or at least it was when I was a fairly young lawyer, to identify those people in the community that could help me get to where I wanted to be. And I think it is important for young lawyers to be part of organizations, attorney organizations, volunteer for areas, for community organizations in areas of laws that you are interested in, but make those connections. And also for more seasoned attorneys to be really intentional in reaching out to that younger associate, reaching out to that young lawyer or that law student, and mentoring him or her. What I found was beneficial to me was not so much the formal mentoring programs, but more so the informal connections, the organic connections that you make with somebody along the way. And then not being afraid of reaching out and say, hey, I love what you do. I want to know more. Could I buy you coffee? It sounds so simple, but it was so scary for me to to take that step. But it always pays off. And I'll share this with you, that I saw this video of Steve Jobs saying how, when he was 14, he called up, was it HP, and wanting to ask, just straight up went through the white pages and called the CEO and asked for some spare parts. And I was like, whoa. And he said, don't be afraid to ask, because most of the time you'll get a yes.
I love that so much. Mary, did you have any thoughts on that?
So I think what Corinne said is so spot on about representation. I come from an immigrant family. My grandmother couldn't write her name. She signed with an X. When ultimately she was able to write her name, it was the biggest deal in the family. And I did not know any lawyers except one white man who came from a good family. So I didn't see anyone who looked like me. In my neighborhood, a really great job was working if you got in at the grocery store, which is a good job because you'd be able to be in the union. And so to actually think about going to college, but then going to law school was not even something that I had imagined. Ultimately, it was just really happenstance, connecting with the right people who saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, and then being able to think that you can be a lawyer. I mean, when I went to law school, I felt like an imposter. I did well, but I still kept thinking that it's all wrong. Someone must be like grading this improperly. And then even when I was a lawyer, someone would ask, what do you do? And I'd be like, I'm a lawyer. But in my head, I'd be like, not really. Like, I'm not really a lawyer. And so I think, seeing people who look like you and who come from similar backgrounds, it's important because it does allow you to dream of things that you would not have even thought possible. So I think Kareen's statements are just spot on every facet.
There's a lot of chuckles in the audience, so I think it definitely resonated. James, what about you?
Yeah, so I came from some difficult circumstances coming up, but I was also born on second base, as they like to say, right? There's a lot of privilege that comes along with looking as I look. And thinking about, as I go forward in service in the legal community, I have to think about how do I take that into account? And there's been some great panels during this conference helping you to be more aware of that and think about it. For mentorship, what really stood out for me was that when I went to law school, I also very much felt like an imposter, having been a high school dropout and coming from the economic circumstances I came from. And I remember I used to go to law school my 1L year in a suit. In a terrible suit. I did not look very good. And the professors absolutely saw through everything that I was doing and knew who I really was. But I had one professor who I felt saw the potential that I could have and said, I'm going to see you for who you are. I'll play into a little bit of what you're trying to do, and I'm going to help you to get to the next level. And so when I go out and think about service projects and pro bono and bringing new people into our firm, I think a lot about that mentorship, and the mentorship starts with really seeing someone for who they are, not who you want them to be, not who you believe from your life experience they are. Listening, asking the questions, what do they value? Where do they want to go? And then saying part of being a mentor is helping them to get through those steps. And trust they may not go in the direction you want them to go. That's not your role as a mentor. It's to get them to be the best version of themselves. And when you do that, that's, to me, a true form of service.
Yeah, amazing. It's just, it doesn't take much, but a small connection can have a huge impact, right? So Mary, I want to ask you a little bit more. You've talked a lot on the panel already about just the challenges that face the criminal justice system and how trying that can be in the face of what you do. How do you keep going? How do you stay inspired on these 4-6 year pro bono cases?
We really do have an amazing team, and if I had to do it alone, one, I would not be successful, but also it would be really boring. I mean, it is about getting the right people in the right places and having a whole lot of fun. I think they were the loudest people last night at the Grand Ole Opry, and we usually are the loudest crowd everywhere, but it really is recognizing that law is extremely stressful, and I think for criminal defense litigation, it's wildly stressful because you are up against the government all the time, and frequently judges who are very prosecutorially oriented. The public frequently hates us. We'll get great, kudos when we exonerate somebody, but 364 days of the year, I mean, we get tons of hate mail, hate calls, emails, everything because of the clients who we represent. So having the right team in place and recognizing that a traditional law firm structure is not necessarily the structure that's most beneficial. So I think someone mentioned this on one of the panels, but I really believe it, and so does, luckily, my business partner, or else we wouldn't have as much fun as we do. So many people think you've got to come in at 8, you work an 8 or 9 hour day, and then you leave at a particular time. And really, who cares? Who cares? As long as somebody's answering the phone or is available when you have clients. I mean, obviously, you can't structure court that way. You have to be there. But the rest of the time, whether you work at noon or midnight, as long as the job is getting done, that's the most important thing. And then we have staff members who have children and, other aspects of their personal life that they have to attend to. And so to give someone and say, okay, we have 2 weeks off for vacation or 3 weeks or whatever it is. So parents have to make that choice between, okay, well, I can't go see you in the school play, or I can't go be a parent in your room because I've got to save up my time off so that we can go on vacation. I mean, it's just so antithetical to how people should be living their lives. And it's amazing to me that we have accepted this for so long. I mean, everybody on staff whose full-time is salaried with unlimited personal and vacation, they manage it all themselves. If someone said, listen, I want to work, 2 days a year, I think our firm administrator, Tony, would say no, right? He would say that no to that. But really, they get their work done. And I think the work is such an amazing quality. And at least to me, I think it's a better quality, right? Because we try to show that we respect everyone, and I think they give that back to us 10 times over. I could call any single one of these people at midnight and be like, listen, I need you to help me on a brief or prepare for trial, and every single person would do it without questions. Now, luckily, I haven't had to do that, right? So that's good. But because they know that if they had something going on, we would really try and accommodate, their lives as well. And so it's just, I think, really changing the way that we look at the day and recognizing again that neurodiversity is a big deal. Not everybody works the same way. Not everybody works 8 hours straight. I know I don't like to work that way. So recognizing that and allowing people to live their lives in a way that is, I think you said, most authentic to them in the workplace allows me to keep going because everybody's really cool and happy, and then that keeps me happy. So
That's really awesome. I mean, that seems like common sense, but yeah, we have been continuing working the same way for years and years.
And pets, they were allowed to bring their dogs and cats into the office. So on any given day, you see, Miles is on our website, Lizzie's dog, Thea's cat is in there, and Magnolia frequently greets people when they come in.
Lovely. So James, I had a similar question for you, because some of the issues that you're combating with your community works are like climate change. Like, that's a huge issue, and people have a lot of anxiety about that. Like, how do you stay positive and keep going with that kind of thing?
Well, first, I'm a positive person, right? I know that the world is getting better. There's little times when the world gets worse and things shift a little bit, but over time, the world is getting better. And I'm very confident that we can solve all the problems that we face as humanity. And this is the biggest problem I think we have to face in the big picture. So I personally think climate change is the generational challenge for my generation. And if we as a firm don't do something about it, I'm not sure who's going to. And so I feel optimistic we can do it. But the way you feel optimistic is also saying, well, what are the things that really work? I promise I won't geek out about environmental stuff, but I'll give you I'll take my 1 minute privilege because you asked. Our tree planting initiative. You could say, I'm going to go plant a bunch of pine trees in Tennessee. Or you can say, like we do, let's pair up with reputable international organizations and let's plant mangrove trees that are much better at capturing carbon. They're self-propagating, so they can be more efficient over time in collecting carbon. They build areas for fish to come, and so they support aquatic life. They help reduce erosion on the shoreline. That improves fisheries for local communities. And we even look at the local communities where those trees are being planted and say, are you just hiring Americans to fly in and plant trees, or are we supporting the local economy, right? So thinking about the efforts that we're doing in the long term, how will they really address climate change? And the way you'll address it is addressing carbon and reducing carbon in the atmosphere, but also proactively and intelligently developing economies in the developing world and supporting education for women and supporting children's health and thinking about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So I would love to talk about all of that stuff. I will stop myself because that's where I really geek out. But at the end of the day, I'm an optimist, and I think we should all be optimistic.
Yeah, I love that. Love that energy. And then Karine, I mean, there's a lot of inequity and inequality still, a lot of imbalance and opportunities that are available. And you're doing amazing work to combat that. But it's such a huge issue and we have such a long way to go. Like, how do you stay positive and keep going?
I'll tell you, you have to have a good team. Not just your work team, but first and foremost, the home team, right? My husband, Dom, is over there in the public. Hi, Dom. And He's my home team, and your home team has to be on board with you changing the world. Right? Because they will be the ones that will pick up the slack, that will get the kids. The kids have to be on board with this as well. So my daughter, my 15-year-old, was helping out this summer with Pitch Black, getting things ready, volunteering as well. So the kids have to be on board with the program, and they have to understand also that, yes, mommy may not make this school play today, but tomorrow we're going to do this together. It is important to have a great home team, to have a great home support system, because if you don't have a full cup yourself, you cannot pour into others. And so you start there to keep yourself positive and motivated. I agree with everything Mary said, to have a great work team as well, and make sure that you encourage one another and keep one another going. At my firm, one of the most draining areas, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, is doing juvenile work. And I think you do some of that as well. And it is hard to look at those children, look at those cases, work on those cases all day. But then when you get home and you have an opportunity to take that hat off a little bit, because it never really all goes away, but take that hat off a little bit and give your child a big hug. That replenishes you, or your pet, or whomever it is in your life that is a support for you. It is very important to cultivate those relationships just as hard as we work on our careers. And I think for lawyers, that's something that we all need a reminder of.
Yes, absolutely. Please take care of yourselves. So I wanted to talk a little bit more back to the legal work side of things. How does your community work impact the way that you interact with your paid clients, or has it? Corinne, can I start with you? Sure.
It really does impact the way that I interact with my paying clients. I jokingly tell people, Forward to Legal is my day job, and the Midlands African Chamber is my night job that thinks it's my day job. Because the two of them now interact. I run two organizations, two teams that are for now located under the same roof, but soon are going to be split up. But it does change it changes the way that I interact with my paid clients, because, for instance, when they are immigrants, right, they know me already somehow, whether it is because they saw about Pitch Black, whether it is they are a small business owner and they joined the Chamber of Commerce, they already know me. And it impacts my paid job positively, because then I get more referrals from people, that want to protect their brand, that wants to set up their business, or they want to have contracts reviewed for their business. So it impacts it positively, and vice versa, right? I have paid clients that have become sponsors of Pitch Black, that have volunteered as mentors for our Rising CEOs program for high school teenagers that want to do business. So we want to help them acquire leadership skills, business skills, things like that. So it goes vice versa.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Mary, what about you?
For us, our pro bono work is pretty much very similar to our retained work. I think the biggest thing for us is we see what can really go wrong when people don't care, they're not prepared, they don't fight really hard for their client. So it just reinforces every day what we need to be doing for retained work. It also reinforces, I am a big proponent of people not dabbling in the area of criminal defense. It is amazing to me how many lawyers think they see it on Law and Order or whatever, and they think I can do that, or whatever show they're watching, and they really can't. It is as much a specialty as patent law or business law or anything else. It might not seem that way because people are seeing it on television, but it really is. And so a lot of times we see what goes wrong when people dabble. And so again, it just really motivates us to fight for our clients so that they are not wrongfully convicted and not wrongfully imprisoned.
Absolutely. I mean, people must see the work that you do and see you as an inspiring potential.
They do, but we ran into this very well-educated person at lunch, and she was talking about how, she had wanted to start an innocence clinic at this school, and was talking about, you really don't need lawyers to handle that work. You would have these law students who can do it, because anyone can look at these cases and see what's wrong. And I almost, wanted to take my fork and stab her, but I didn't, because then, Takura would have to defend. Takura would defend me. But I wanted to be respectful, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. The work that goes into these is just, it is hundreds and hundreds of hours, and it is tons of investigating. And these guys could tell you stories about, knocking on doors and people turning them away, and digging through files and trying to track down witnesses from 25 years ago. This woman lied to Takura over and over that she wasn't the witness, and finally he realized she was, and then ultimately he charmed her and she invited him for Christmas dinner. But it was just like this, really kind of nutty situation. So people have this misconception that it's so easy to do that anyone can do it.
That's
wrong. That's very wrong.
It's wild. And James, what about you? How have you seen the community work you do impact the work you do with your paid clients?
I think the B Corp certification process was really good at making us think about the vendors we use and then how we think about our clients. So on the vendors we use, one of the things that B Corp talks about is, are you buying from women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses or veteran-owned businesses? Where are you getting your resources from as you build your own business? And then are you looking locally when you're buying for those resources? So that makes us think more consciously about who in our community can help us. Do we have to buy from Amazon, or can we buy from someone right down the road? And then in terms of our clients, it makes us go out to our clients and say, have you seen our dashboard? Have you learned about our environmental initiatives? What are you doing at your business? Can we help you? Can we give you some advice to maybe make your business more conscious and think about that? So we try to share our values with our clients. And I think being authentic in the work that we do and about what we care about, it comes across in the way we talk to our clients, and hopefully over time moves the needle in the way that they run their businesses.
Yeah, I love that. That's really, really great. So I did want to leave some time for questions from the audience. Does anybody have any questions for the panel? All right, I will come to you. Just one moment.
Hi, congratulations to all of you. It was really wonderful to hear extra insights during this discussion. I'm reminded in 2018, the great civil rights attorney Brian Stevenson talked at Clio in New Orleans. And one of his big takeaways is talking about proximity. And I've always taken that to heart in the work I've done as an attorney. And I'd love to get your perspective on where proximity has fit in, especially when it's become uncomfortable proximity, and how you address that in your career.
Well, for us, there is some definite uncomfortable proximity with our clients. Let's just be real honest. We do have some funny stories about some very inappropriate proximity, but we do really try to get to know our clients on a human level. I think there's always some similarity between people. The reality is, not everyone we represent is wrongfully convicted or wrongfully accused. We right now remarkably have 2 different individuals who are accused of being cannibals. And so, I don't have a desire to, eat other people in that manner, but there are things that you can find that you have in common, whether it's baseball or, politics or, television or anything. So, I mean, I do think it's important to get to know clients on a human level, and that allows them to trust us more and open up more so we can better defend them.
That's a great answer.
Well, who can follow the cannibal comment? I don't know.
That's hard to follow. I agree, though, that you have to understand your clients and know where they come from and understand a lot about them. For instance, I had a client that I had helped win an asylum case. And when I came to work the next day, I saw all these fruit in the office. Bananas, pineapples, oranges, like this huge basket. And I'm like, I asked my assistant, where did this come from? He's like, well, your client came and he wanted to say thank you. So he brought all of this for you. And I was like, wow. But I knew he was from Africa, and probably if we were in his country, what else he would have brought would be a goat or a chicken. And so I was glad he didn't bring the goat or the chicken this time. And I was really grateful because he didn't have much, and what he brought was a true expression of gratitude, and I really appreciated that.
I think for me, I'll talk about proximity with our community. Our firm is based in a relatively wealthy area of Texas, and many people in our legal community are doing pretty well and don't realize what's actually happening in the community outside their doors. How many children are facing abuse and neglect, how the homeless population has grown during COVID. And for me, proximity is getting outside of the office and getting out into the community and experiencing some of that, touching some of that, internalizing it into you that there's suffering right outside your door. And it's easy to think, if you drive around in a nice area, that everyone's doing well. And the only way you break that is by getting outside of the office and saying, where are people not doing well? Let me go out there and help out, and let me break a sweat in the process, right? Let me go and staff a food pantry. Let me get out there and see what's actually happening. So I think proximity is about, again, being authentic, going out and seeing the authentic world around you, not just the way you think the world is, but how it actually is. And that's what's going to inspire you and keep you motivated. I'm confident we all feel the same, that when you become aware of suffering in your community, you have to do something about it. You have to. The question is, what do you do?
Thank you so much. We have another question over here, and then we probably have time for one more question after this.
Thank you for all your insight and what you're doing. Number one, first and foremost. I think I want a quick statement, and then I have my question. I think that the engagement that you find with your clients escalates so much more when you're doing something charitable. We just find that in our practice. I have a estate planning practice, and people are hungry to do something in their community, but they don't know who to turn to, and there's lots of questions about, is this organization a good one or whatever, and so they can turn to you as your trusted attorney, law firm, and say, wow, they're doing this, I'm gonna go with them. So good job for being there for your client community to be that source. The question I have is, being somebody who is early on in the process of wanting to give back and start a charitable organization, and Mary, you would like this, it has to do with criminal defense. I am a former public defender, but I don't do any litigation anymore. I have a love for veterans, so James, right up your alley. But my concern, and this is outside concern, I'm still gonna do the whole thing, but is getting so invested in the new charitable venture that I kind of forget about my practice. So how do you guys incorporate your balance between what you're doing on the pro bono side and what you do for your business?
So none of these people will continue to work as much as they would love to if they did not get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and if they did not get bonuses that allowed them not just to survive, but to live lives where they can buy homes and travel and, do things that a high quality of life requires, I think. And so that really is why we're in business. And it is easy, I think, to fall into like taking every pro bono case that comes in. There are so many letters. Nicole responds to every single letter. Might not be that week, but she will do it because just out of respect that people are going to write to you. The vast majority of the prisoners who write to us are asking for pro bono help. They really can't afford us. We have to balance that with our retained work, and that's the retained work allows us. So you just have to set kind of a goal in mind as to how you want, for example, to pay your staff, and make sure that the retained work is really your priority, because that is why you're in business. We're not running a legal aid clinic. If we were, anyone coming in the door, that would be great, but we really are a business, and we're a for-profit business. The other stuff is fun, and it is meaningful, and it is absolutely necessary. But if we go too heavy into the pro bono stuff, none of us are going to continue to work together. And so for us, a big requirement to take on a case pro bono is someone else does the screening. So because we don't have the ability to do that, and it is not for people who their Fourth Amendment rights were violated, but they really did have the body in the trunk. We'll take that case on a retained basis. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but we will not do that pro bono. So it is predominantly screened through one of the two innocence clinics in Michigan. They'll contact us when we exonerate someone. I can expect to get a call from Dave Moran at University of Michigan, where he'll see congratulations. Now you've got an opening, right? I got another case to slide in. They're screened by colleagues, people we trust. So they're screened by someone else for us to do that sort of work, because it is so labor intensive. But again, we are a for-profit business, and I don't apologize for saying that. I like money. I mean, I really do, right? I like living in a nice home, driving a nice car. And I don't think anyone has to apologize for that. That's really why we're in business. I don't know if that answers your question, but it really is just kind of like determining what the goal is for your business, but you really have to think about it. And if you have a great partner, you've got to make sure that you and your partner have discussed it and you're both in sync.
To add to what Mary said, the billable work comes first. Right, the billable work comes first. However, we get so passionate about the non-billable work, about the non-profit work, that sometimes it threatens to take over. So first, being cognizant of that fact, being aware of it, and strategizing for how to balance. In my particular experience, it was finding enough grant money and sponsorships to staff the non-profit adequately, so that I didn't spend so many hours at night doing the work, or so many weekends doing the work, because I know the weekday 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, my priority is for to legal. Right? I need the billable work to come in order for that to support me being able to do the non-billable work.
I spend a lot of time coming up with our metrics, and they've been incredibly helpful for us, because we said on the money side, 5% of our gross revenue, all the money that comes in the firm besides pass-through expenses, 5% we put towards good works. Not towards nonprofits, towards good works. So good works could be a nonprofit, maybe it's not a nonprofit. You don't have to have a nonprofit organization, but it's good to have a budget. You now know that X% of the money that comes in, you're going to put that towards the good stuff, to helping out in your community. And on the time side, we said 5% of our billable time will be pro bono and service projects. So it scales. If we have a terrible month and no one's paying us, we can't bill time, the amount of pro bono time we can do goes down. But every week in our weekly meeting, we look at, are we on track for our dollars? Are we on track for our time? And it's a nice metric that keeps us on track. And including if you get really heavy, we're doing an asylum case now with 3 siblings. Sometimes that takes a lot of hours. And so we're not ashamed to go, that was a lot of hours. Maybe next month we'll slow it down a little bit to balance it out. The goal is an average, 5% of time.
And Clio does the reporting function. I don't know if you use that a lot. I mean, I feel like I'm the Clio pitch, but I'm not getting paid for that. But the reporting function really is great because Tony runs those for us every month, and we have a meeting. And if it's down, we know, okay, we got to pick it up. And so we look at hours every week. So that reporting function keeps us on track because, again, you can, as Corinne said, let your heart really kind of pull you in one direction, and then you're shutting your doors and then you can't help anybody. You can't help retained clients or pro bono clients.
And that's the tracking non-billable hours that you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
Tracking non-billable hours in Clio.
So you can track non-billable hours in Clio, absolutely. So we have just like every matter, we have essentially, like, for example, a potential new client, so that when Nicole or Lizzie or Kim are talking to someone on the phone, they will put that in, even though that's not billable. But we can see, okay, well, Kim spent 20 hours this month with potential new clients on the phone. So I'm not going to be like, well, what were you doing for 20 hours? Getting your nails done. But you can do that with your pro bono work as well. I mean, we put the time in for the clients in Clio the same way we would for a retained matter. But again, I mean, if Tony runs the revenue report and that month we've made $10, then, we got to stop with the pro bono work, right? I mean, at least until we get that back up.
We even track our service projects in Clio. We just set up a firm as the client and our matter is service projects. Yeah. So we can do that for our reporting. It's a Clio commercial.
Yeah, no, it is. But
it's been great. Clio's been great to help us to stay on top of it.
We do the same thing with like marketing and presentations and stuff. So that way, again, if somebody is spending 10 hours putting their presentation together, we're not looking and saying, well, what did this person do all week? We know what they did. They worked on client matters, but they also did marketing things for the firm. And Clio allows you to do that. I know. I'm going to take your T-shirt.
We're going to get cut off in a minute here. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. Thank you for our wonderful presenters. Can we get another round of applause? Really, really inspiring stories. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like this session, please leave us feedback in the app. We would love to hear what you thought. And also keep using the app. Every point is an entry to that grand prize trip to Vancouver. And you do have to be present during the closing remarks to see that. And then we just wanted to get that in. And we have one more question, and you guys can kind of answer it until we get cut off, or talk about it after. So.
Hi, I'm very moved by all your practices and what are you doing. I'm from Puerto Rico. My question is, where did you find sustainability? Because I'm a new law firm. We are the only B Corp certified in Puerto Rico. Yes, and we're very happy about it. And we work promoting social enterprises and economic development for our communities that all of them mostly are disadvantaged. And it's really hard work. We got hit by 2 hurricanes, so we're having a bad time. The government, they don't know how to manage the CDBG-DR funds, our funds to recovery the island. It's been bad. So we are working with new things, but most of our clients, we wanted to promote social enterprises, and we work with NGOs as well, but we wanted to promote economic development. We want the people of the communities to empower and work and establish their businesses, but they don't have money. So where did you get your sustainability? How do you do that? Because for us, we have to work a lot. We're getting bigger as a law firm, but not necessarily we are sustainable right now. Thank you.
It's a great question, and it's one that a lot of firms actually face, and not only firms but organizations as well. How do you keep doing work for good but get sustainable? So for my firm in particular, it is looking at those metrics, looking at those hours, right? And looking at what we can afford to donate, what we can afford to spend in terms of personnel time on things. And so that's one key area that I pay attention to, so that we could be sustainable. On the nonprofit side, sustainability is huge. I mean, to give you a little example, the Millions African Chamber is, the only Black chamber, but also the most affordable chamber to belong to in the state of Nebraska. Our fees for joining for small businesses, 1 to 5 people employed there, is just $100 for a whole year, whereas the other chambers there are around $500. So the sustainability question was one we had to answer for ourselves very early on, because we fundamentally did not want cost to be a barrier. And so what we did was to leverage partnerships, sponsorship with bigger organizations like Meta, Google, LinkedIn, go to those organizations and ask for financial backup so that we could be sustainable. Go to foundations, apply for grants with foundations that support the work of economic inequality, economic equity, and make a case, right? And pitch this idea of Pitch Black to all those people and bring them together to support it, and then be a good steward of the monies that we are given so that we can have long-term sustainability. Another aspect of that for us is investing on those minority entrepreneurs. We already know there was a lot of money is going around, right, in the last 2-3 years in terms of venture capital monies being invested in funders, but we know that out of all that money, 2% only went to women-led ventures, and only 1% went into Black folks-led ventures or Black funders. And so there's a huge gap. There's a huge gap there, and there are organizations that want to change that, and we want to get their help, right, to help us be sustainable. At the same time, those organizations that we in turn help fund or help them get access to funding, as they grow, we are expecting them to give back as well, to pour back into the chamber, to pour back into other minority business owners, do business amongst themselves and help their businesses grow, which in turn help us grow. So that was a long answer to your question.
It's a good answer. Yeah, spot on.
That was great. We do unfortunately have to leave it there. So once again, thank you so much. Please, you can come up and talk to the speakers and talk to them in the app, but enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much.